Welcome to the Suncoast Spotlight webinar, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Today we're shining the spotlight on social media. We'll show you how to cut through the noise with content that attracts, engages, and builds your brand. Our distinguished panel will offer career advice, share storytelling techniques, and tips on personal branding. Today's webinar is about social media engagement, so please tweet your questions to @JoseTV or submit them in the comments section. Don't forget to include your name and your school. And now, here's our moderator, Jose Suarez.
Hey there, good morning, everybody. It is 11 a.m. in the East, 8 a.m. over here on the West Coast. I'm so excited to be here. I grew up in South Florida. I grew up as a member of this chapter. Learned so much about television and media from a lot of people that are watching today, that are a part of this. So thank you so much to the Suncoast Emmys for inviting me to be part of this today. Social media, it is big. From the day that we started connecting with folks on social media on TV in South Florida, I remember back covering hurricanes, we would never lose connection with our audience via social media. And we learned that early on. And it's such a big part of now what we do, social engagement. What works, what doesn't work, what should we do, what shouldn't we do, what should we say, what shouldn't we say? It can be so confusing at so many different levels. But today we have a really great group of people that we've connected with to be able to break through some of that clutter. So I'd like to introduce them to you right now. We're going to get straight to some of the topics that we're going to be covering today. So thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, if you have any questions, you can shoot them directly to me. @JoseTV is my handle on the Twitters. You can also reach me on Instagram. We're also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. So we are all over the place. You can see the crawl right there with all the pertinent information that you need to know. So let's go ahead and meet our panel because we have a great group and we can get straight to the discussion. First up, we have Brandon Lopez. Brandon, introduce yourself.
Hi, Jose. Good morning. First of all, thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you to the organization for inviting me to be part of this panel. My name is Brandon Lopez. I'm the digital media manager at WPBF in West Palm Beach, Florida, and I'm also the president of NAHJ South Florida. Good to be here.
All right, awesome. And let's go over to Whitney Ashton is joining us also here on the West Coast. She was up early with me. Whitney, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Whitney Ashton. I'm the Regional Audience Development Editor for the NBC-owned television stations. So I primarily work with the West Coast. I'm based in LA, and I work with LA, Bay, and San Diego. Prior to that, I was the social media lead at NBC LA and Telemundo 52 for 3 years. And I'm just so excited to be here and talk about social media this morning.
Can't wait. That's awesome. And did we get Brandon Launertz back? We were having a little... There he is.
I'm here.
Introduce yourself to the friendly people out there.
Hello, everybody. I am Brandon Launertz. I am the social media producer at CBS This Morning, which is the best morning show in the United States, but with Gayle King, Anthony Mason, and Tony DeCopel. A few things about me. I started my career with Jose Suarez. He was one of my bosses back at NBC6. I started there in 2011. And then in 2015, I worked at WSVN. One of the powerhouse stations in Miami, Florida. And then I moved on to CBS This Morning, which is based in New York. But because of COVID-19, I'm working remote in Miami for now, and then eventually go back to New York. So thank you, everyone, for watching, and I'm very excited for this panel.
So I guess one of the things that I neglected to say is that I'm Jose Suarez, and I'm the president and general manager of 3 Telemundo stations, the Sacramento, Fresno, and Salt Lake City. Started my career in production back in the 90s at WFOR, was fortunate enough to get on TV, have been I guess what's it called now, a VJ, right? Video journalist, and worked my way up from there. Been a news director, was fortunate enough to work at WTVJ, WSFL in South Florida, and a bunch of different other TV stations. But one thing that has definitely evolved is I never had to deal with social media back in the day when I was a reporter, but I have seen it evolve, as I did talk about briefly at the beginning, at the intro. And Whitney, we're going to start with you a little bit, especially now during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that have changed for you as a journalist working in this space, and how are you using the platforms differently?
Absolutely. So prior to COVID, I was a working journalist, going into the newsroom in Los Angeles every day, oftentimes going out, reporting on social media, using my phone, using my DSLR, getting stories that way. Since COVID hit, I've been sent to work from home. I've been working from home now for over a year. So you can imagine the way that I'm storytelling has definitely changed. I am currently doing all of my interviews virtually. So I haven't done an in-person interview in over a year. Obviously with the COVID restrictions in California, it does make it difficult to gather content, but, we just do the best we do with mask wearing, wearing of gloves, things like that to just minimize exposure. But I think ultimately the biggest thing that has changed is typically journalists are not part of the story. In this case with COVID, we've been living it, right? I've lost family members to COVID. We've, had people in the newsroom who have been infected. So this is just not like anything we've ever seen before. And we've just had to try to grapple with it as best as we can. And I think for me, the biggest thing has been meeting the audience where they are. So I've found technology and tools like StreamYard, for example, which we're using today, to connect with the audience and, bring them in and have a conversation, because I think we have more eyeballs. We have a captive audience now, which is great for us as journalists. So I think it's just meeting them where they are, which is now, on their desktop or their laptop, since people are working from home, or on mobile, of course.
Whitney, we have a quick video that you shared with us. If we could go ahead and roll that real quick, take a look at it.
I'm Whitney Irick. I'm the social lead in the digital department at NBCLA and Telemundo 52 in Los Angeles. I'm responsible for crafting our social media strategy, working with our reporters and anchors to craft theirs, and also writing and reporting for NBCLA.com. So something that we're grappling with is how can we still tell these stories without physically being there? And one of the ways that we're doing that is by using social media and technology like we never have before. And I really think that that's helped us create a community and a conversation between us and our audience. I was surprised at how quickly we were able to pivot to work from home, thanks in large part to our IT department. They got us connected to the server, and within the first week, I was able to conduct interviews with people who live in New York from my bedroom right here in Los Angeles. I think of myself as a pretty social and outgoing person, so I thought that this experience would feel kind of isolating. But I think with the internet and social media, it's allowed us to connect, and ultimately I think this is a collective experience that we're all going through, and we're gonna get through it together.
That's a great video, Whitney. Thank you for sharing that with us, and I'm going to need that pillow and your jacket. I absolutely love the jacket.
Is custom, so I can't give that away.
Okay, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it offline. But it is really incredible, the new normal that we're facing. I was just talking to a friend on Instagram just a few minutes ago, because I posted a picture of us getting ready to do this. And it's amazing to think about the fact that now all of our homes have become mobile television studios. What we're able to do with our phones and our laptops is absolutely incredible. But there are so many different emerging platforms out there. Brandon Lonertz, are you all using TikTok? Are you all using some of the newer platforms to tell stories and to share what's going on? And if so, how are you using those? And how do your messaging differ from platform to platform?
Sure. So I think one of the most important things in working in social media is you have to kind of monitor new trends, new platforms, see what's out there. So, TikTok has exploded in the last year or so. So, I work for CBS This Morning, the morning show, but I'm part of the CBS News digital team. So we've really invested in TikTok. So our CBS News account has just reached 1 million followers, which is an incredible accomplishment for a news organization. In less than 10 months, we're up to 1 million followers on TikTok. But I think it's important to find a new way to tell a story, because the audiences are different on each platform. So Instagram Reels, we're using a lot also, because that's one of the fastest ways to grow on Instagram right now, is with Instagram Reels. So if you're watching right now and you're trying to think, how can I get more Instagram followers? Because I know a lot of people love using Instagram. Like, experiment with Instagram Reels, follow different people, and see how you can be different from your competitors. And by competitors, I mean, because you may not necessarily be working with the news organization right now, but a competitor, it could be one of your colleagues, another student in your class. So kind of, follow people that you look up to, see what they're doing, and then try to form your own strategy. But TikTok and Instagram Reels, it's very interesting to see where it's going, because it's a total opposite from what TV is. TV is, it's like a highly produced package, where on TikTok, or it's kind of just, you're getting your phone and you're recording your own thing and you're just telling a story in less than 30 seconds or so. So it's interesting to see where we're going.
Brandon, one of the interesting things is that when you think about TikTok, I'm not on TikTok. I'm going to go ahead and admit that to you right now. But I do get a lot of TikTok videos sent to me, things that are very specific that people think I'm going to think is funny, things like that. I always think of it as such a fun sort of place. How have you all pivoted to use that for serious storytelling?
Yeah, so we've been using our correspondents to help tell the stories. So like one of our correspondents, Errol Barnett, he's our transportation correspondent, and we'll kind of guide them and tell them how to do a TikTok. They follow people and they start to do their own, but they're able to tell the story, and then they use the green screen feature where you see behind them, so they can put video behind them, and they're kind of telling a story, and then you have subtitles pop up on the screen. So or also if there was a press conference, or Nancy Pelosi speaking and there's a very notable bite, we'll isolate the shortest bite that will catch your attention, and we'll put subtitles on it, because we want to put that in your face and tell the story that way. And then we can also break it up. You can do different parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, so people know that you expect another video coming. So it's interesting, because everyone thinks of TikTok as just fun dancing, but you can actually use TikTok as a serious news platform. And I expect it to grow even more in the next year. You're going to see a lot more news organizations on there.
So Brandon Lopez, talk to us a little bit about, in your role, how do you, in the editorial meeting, let's say, do you all start your day by talking about how you're going to tease properties or tease stories, or involve or do storytelling, original storytelling on the social platforms? Because still, a lot of us in a lot of newsrooms, we're still worried about feeding the beast, right? About getting on at that for our newscasts. So how do you leverage the storytelling on social versus what we need to do to feed the beast?
Well, it's interesting because the conversation has totally changed in that, it's the older mindset was, we're going to save this for the show. And that mindset has really just kind of gone out the window as more newsrooms turn to being a digital first newsroom. So if we're finding that we get a good piece of video and we know that it's exclusive, we're posting that on the app, we're sending a push alert, and we're posting it to Facebook, and we essentially tease that to our beast, so to say. So we're telling people, hey, here's a piece of that video, go to our app, and then if you want the full story, tune in at 5. I think the days of just holding it for the show is done, just because everybody's here. Everybody's here, and so we need to be there because that's where the audience is.
And that's interesting. And what's the response? And what is also the filter on, do you give away the whole story if I get to the scene and I want to post something on TikTok or on Twitter or on Instagram, or do I save anything for the story, Brandon? What's been your experience? How are you coaching people through that?
I think it really all depends on the story. It's a really case-by-case basis. From a local news perspective, we're not really venturing out in TikTok yet because mainly, at the end of the day, it's all about money. So it's hard for us to, find ways to monetize a platform like TikTok. But, we do find ways to just to really tease the story or get it out there. It really depends on the story. And it's a conversation that, the news managers will get together with a reporter and we'll say, okay, what's the best plan of action for this? In some cases, it is a good idea to just put everything up online and then, leave it for the show. In some cases, it's good to, just drop a little teaser on social or online and then, push back to the show. So it's really a case-by-case basis.
Okay. So we're starting to get some questions already sent to us. Don't forget that you could tweet me your question if you have one. @JoseTV is my Twitter handle, and we will do our best to get it answered for you. And one of the things that we are doing differently for this webinar is that we're going to try to answer your questions in real time as opposed to sort of waiting to the end to answer those questions. We're going to try to do it throughout. So Whitney, I'm going to ask you this one if it's all right. Dominic asked, what has been the hardest story to tell because of COVID?
I would honestly say, covering the lives lost to COVID. Everyone has a story, and I think as a journalist, that's something that I take really seriously. I may be the only person to ever, chronicle their life or write about them. So my colleague and we actually put together a project called Faces of Coronavirus. And if you go to nbcla.com/faces of coronavirus, you can look at it. And what it is, it's about 50 Californians that were lost to COVID. And, we just detail their life. Some were veterans, some were teachers, some were young, some were old, some worked in hospitals. So for me, that has definitely been the most difficult story to cover. It's been really hard, talking to those families on the phone or talking to them over Zoom. And, hearing the stories and hearing how the end of life was, and not being able to say goodbye to loved ones, and maybe only doing it over a screen on FaceTime. So that for me has definitely been the hardest story to tell.
Now, am I being told here that we have a story that you put together regarding COVID that we could see? And I'm sorry if I got the wrong direction here in the, I'm winging it a little bit.
It's at nbcla.com.
Okay, no, we don't. I'm sorry. Okay, so it's just the one. So if you do want to take a look at the story, the item that Whitney just talked about, you could send her a tweet, and
right.
she will tweet out a link.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay,
nbcla.com/faces of coronavirus. If anyone is interested.
Okay. Awesome. And if you missed it, one of us will definitely get it for you. So another question here from Matthew. Do you think TikTok has benefited journalism as a whole? Brandon Lopez, I'm going to shoot that one over to you.
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, I think this is more for journalism as a whole. I mean, really, social media has really just, it's been tough because anything that gets online can really just take off like wildfire. And I think we saw that last year, with regards to the election and, with this whole fake news movement. So, I think it applies really to Twitter, to Instagram, to Facebook. It definitely has changed the landscape in how we have to tell stories. But I definitely think that it's, it really is a double-edged sword. I mean, you have to be really careful because if you get it wrong, it can get into millions of hands, and that's when you get really into trouble.
And I think we're still figuring it out, right? I mean, I think we're still trying to figure out what is the balance between the serious storytelling, the goofiness, the fun, and then we also have to manage our personalities. Brandon Lonertz, what you had something to say?
Yeah, to answer that question, I think it has benefited journalism. I think a lot of the people on TikTok are a younger audience who are not going to turn on the TV at 5 o'clock. It's just not our audience. They're, they're on their phones 24/7. And as a news organization, we have the opportunity to give them verified news that's from a trusted source. I think that's important versus them following someone random who puts something up that's not true. So I do think that news organizations on TikTok is beneficial because it's something you can trust.
Lonertz, I'm gonna shoot this one over to you as well. Lola is asking about IGTV. She says her audience is already on Instagram, so she thought it would be a great way to share content. And you talked a little bit about how you've seen your audience grow because of what you've placed on IGTV. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think there's no harm in putting things on IGTV. I think of it as like another YouTube. I'm not a huge fan of sharing links to an external platform. If I'm on Instagram, go to my YouTube channel. Like, people don't want to switch apps. So if you can put your content all in one place and make it easier for people to consume, I think that's the best thing. So if you produce a 2-minute package or a 2-minute social piece and you want to share that on your Instagram, use IGTV. There's no harm in it. And if you can, vertical first. People want to watch it vertical. So if you have the resources to edit it vertical for Instagram, edit it vertical.
So I'm going to put on my general manager hat for just a second because Papa's got to meet some revenue goals, right, for a station, and it's hard. And I think Brandon Lopez said it earlier. It's hard for us to monetize. It's hard for us to monetize other platforms that are not ours, where we don't control the ads. So I think there's always sort of going to be that eternal pull over. Do we post external links versus giving it all away? But I do want to kind of switch gears, and I'm trying to keep us on time. But we were going to talk about sharing links and sort of marketing, right? And I think that this is an amazing week to really be talking about this because we've seen it work very creatively all week long. because there was an interview last Sunday on CBS. I don't know if anybody watched it or if anybody's even talking about it. I'm kidding. But Brandon, can you talk just a little bit about Brandon Lonnertz? Can you talk just a little bit about how you managed, and for whatever you can talk about, because I know that obviously there's going to be some proprietary stuff that you all won't want to talk about. But how did you all manage the content between an external production company, CBS News, giving away the interview and giving away the pieces of the interview, and being able to really tease it so that you could grow an audience on broadcast, but then at the same time grow your social?
Sure. So I can only speak on part of what was on our show and what we released. So, our show, we released 4 excerpts the morning after the Oprah, Meghan Markle, Prince Harry interview. Once I knew we had those clips, I prepared our copy and got things approved ahead of time, and we released that on our Twitter. Because we knew that if we didn't put that out, someone else is going to rip it and put it out there. So we want that traffic from our social accounts to grow our social accounts. So that was a huge interview for us to have on our show. And
I know that you teased it leading up to it, right? Leading up to Sunday. And then did you put on longer pieces up following the interview, or how did you manage that?
Yeah, so I think which was amazing, and now here's a humble brag, but on Sunday night at the end of the special, Oprah said, and you can watch more exclusive clips tomorrow on CBS This Morning with Gail, Anthony, and Tony. So that gave the viewers a reason to turn on our TV the next day. It gave them a reason to try out our show. So people were looking for more. It was an incredible interview. So at the same time that aired on TV, we had a tweet that said, tomorrow, Oprah joins us live with exclusive, never before seen clips. So that we had the on-air tease, and then we had the tweet that was teasing to our show. So people turned on our TV, and then after it aired, we had those clips on social media, and which got tons of traction on our accounts.
So and before we move on, because I'm just curious, what has been the best part of it, and what has been the worst part of it? Because I'm sure there's been some negative backlash, as there always is on social, right? Following especially just a big event like this.
Yeah, I mean, from the social media manager perspective, the best part is seeing all of the retweets and traffic, because as a social media manager, you like seeing things in the thousands or views in the millions. So that was nice. But I think, which was a huge accomplishment for us, was for the first time ever, our show was #1. We beat the Today Show and Good Morning America. So it just shows the power of content. If you have really good content, people are going to come to you looking for it. So that was an incredible achievement of ours.
All right, Brandon, thank you so much for that. Hey, Whitney, talk to us a little bit about the process in LA and the West Coast stations that you help manage with driving awareness to content. And can you give us some specific examples? I know that NBC LA we have our car chase channel there that we do. How do you leverage social to promote some of that without giving it all away?
Sure. So I am kind of like you, Jose. I love to drive traffic back to the website. That's my ultimate goal. So my philosophy is, include a link, and if they click it, they click it, and if they don't, they don't. But yeah, we have, multiple ways that we try to drive traffic to the site. Pursuits are a big thing in LA. We obviously are great with breaking news. So when there's wildfires, earthquakes, whatever it may be, I think people come to us first locally here. And, I think ultimately evergreen content is really doing well for us right now. So I think we're starting to have to try to figure out how can we combat this news fatigue. Politics are slowing down. People are getting vaccinated. So the coronavirus story is slowly fading. And I think evergreen content for us is the answer, right? And so like some of the hot topics that we're looking at are housing, student loans, things like that. So what affects people's lives day to day?
Okay. And I know that we're at our stations, we're all at the NBC-owned stations, that includes Telemundo. We're very worried about our apps, for our smart TV apps, and being able to populate that evergreen content and driving traffic to that. So we're very excited about building that. Brandon Lopez, we have a great question here from the amazing Hank Tester, who I can't believe is watching.
Hi, Hank.
Good morning, Hank. It's great to see you on here. And he's talking about website articles, and I think it's a really interesting point because I know that a lot of times we do a great job at TV stations making sure to invite people to tune into the content before it airs, whether it's a special report or whether it's breaking news, whatever it is. But do we do enough afterwards to be able to sort of socialize that content so that people can see it after it airs, so that they will read the web article or they will see that video? Hank's specific question is, should the website articles be shorter? Are people reading those? But can you talk about that and talk about socialization of content after it airs so that more people do see it on our websites?
Definitely. I mean, we all just kind of really need to study how users are behaving, right? So when you think about how we consume media and how we're consuming the news, oftentimes we're really not reading through a very lengthy article. Having said that, it is beneficial for SEO purposes. So again, you really have to kind of weigh that balance of, how much copy is too much, but how much is it where the user's really just going to stop reading? I mean, oftentimes you really see that a lot of the larger publications, they even have like a good 3 or 4 lines of text, and then it'll say show full article here. That's because they're anticipating that, the user's really not going to read beyond that. So I really think that, you really need to strike that balance of not too long, but not too short either. But again, going back to user behavior, I mean, the user's really just not going to read a very long article. I mean, right now, our attention spans are the size of a pea. We get so much content thrown at us on a daily basis. We all have so many different news apps. We all have so much that we're scanning through on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Clubhouse, on email, on text. I mean, the list is endless. So we're just looking for the next thing. We're looking for the next thing. And at the end of the day, video is king. So are people going to be sitting through a 2 or 3, 4, 5 minute video? If the content's good, yes. But if it's something where we're just trying to give them a snackable piece of information so that the person can move on with their day, shorter is definitely better. With regards to socializing the content after the fact, I mean, that's definitely necessary. We do a good job at promoting the story before it actually airs in the show. We have it airing in the show, and now we kind of need to just put a bow on it. So yeah, I definitely think that you need to put it on social after the fact so that we can kind of get that last, kind of squeeze the juice out of the lemon one last time and really just drive people back to the website for that one last full circle experience.
Hank, I think another thing is that I think we have to relook at some of the strategies. Ultimately, I think Brandon really said an interesting point that longer sometimes is very difficult for our attention spans. I love inspirational quotes, and I follow a ton. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm constantly sending them different stuff that I've read. I have to tell you, sometimes I can't even get through a really long inspirational meme because it's just too many words, and you're like, no, I just can't. And I'm moving on to the next thing. So I think it's going to be really important moving forward that we really rethink our strategies when it comes to that. And rethinking how we do that and how to quickest get our content, our video content up, and really kind of make it very, very just quick digested and very easy to do. We had a question from Shortcuts talking about custom tailoring content. I'm one of those weirdos that I guess I will put something in my IG story that I don't necessarily post as an Instagram post. And then I'll think about what I'm putting on Facebook because the audience there is going to be a little, different than who might be following me on Instagram. So I really kind of do think about custom tailoring the content for where it's going. And I guess that's the producer in me. Brandon Launertz, you talked a little bit about how you all produce the content, Verticals Better. Can you talk a little bit about how you custom tailor the content for each platform?
Sure. So like I was saying earlier, every platform has a different audience. You can't assume that your audience is on every platform. So Instagram, if you're able to edit an Instagram reel, if you can tell your story in 30 seconds, that's a cool creative way. If you want to post an extended Instagram IGTV, you can post it that way. Instagram stories is huge. It's a very quick way to grow your following using Instagram stories, because when you open up Instagram, it's the first thing on the top of your feed. You see little circles with there. So Instagram stories, if you can help, you can take your audience throughout your day on your story, which is cool. Facebook, I feel like Facebook's a little older audience. Maybe your parents are on there, family. So maybe that's where you share your article that you have, or your video. You can do both on there. Twitter, why don't you use Twitter as a Twitter thread where you can put different nuggets of information in a thread with photos and videos and GIFs, quote graphics. So I think TikTok, like I was saying earlier, use TikTok to tell the story. So I think if you have, if you're not crashing your piece for a 5 o'clock deadline, I think if you have the time to create content for each platform separately, that'll be great. And also, like, one thing to remember too is, like, just because your story aired at 5 or 6 o'clock doesn't mean your day is done. If you have all this content in your phone that you shot and you have 2 hours when you get home or whatever, go and create something. Like, if the story's evergreen, or if you want to do it the next day, go ahead and edit it and put it the next day. Also, I just got to give a quick shout out. I see that one of my former bosses, Frank Adelson's watching. So hi, Frank. He was one of my mentors at NBC6. So it's nice to see him on here.
And he asked a question. He asked a great question, and we're going to get to that one in just a few minutes because I do think it's a very important question, Frank. And thank you for asking that. But before we get to that, Whitney, I want to talk about. We got Nigel is asking a question, and he is from John A. Ferguson Senior High School, and he's asking some of the pros and cons of reporting from the different social platforms. What are some of the pros and cons that you see?
Sure. So pros, now I can interview someone who's in a different state, a different country, different time zone. So that's an amazing thing about social media. The con with that is I feel like when you interview someone in person, you can get so much more, right? You can see what they're wearing, what their office looks like. There's details that you just can't get virtually that I miss in reporting. And then a pro is obviously, I think now we have a two-way street and I'm able to get immediate feedback from the audience, which is awesome. I can see if they like a video, if they don't, if they're not interested in a topic, or if they are. And, obviously a con is those comments are not always positive, right? So we do get some negative comments and you do see those and you read those. And I think, ultimately you take everything with a grain of salt. And then, ultimately for our reporters too, they can, be subject to abuse. So that's, a reality that we do deal with in social media. And, we address it, whether it's reporting the particular party to Twitter or Instagram or, whatever it may be, and go from there.
Brandon Lopez, I'm going to ask you this question. Are we shortchanging our audience by only reporting on social?
What do you mean by shortchanging?
Shortchanging it, and again, I go back to what to Hank's question a little bit because it is interesting. There's more context, there's more time to explain things, but again, we are living in a short attention span society, and are we shortchanging the audience by not directing them to where they could get more context or see more information or get more of the story so that they have a full picture?
Well, I think to be completely honest with you, I think if a news organization is giving the story away on social, you're probably going to have a very angry general manager somewhere. I really think that you need to strike that balance. Yeah, listen, as a digital lead, I'd be pissed too. I really think that you need to strike that balance of, you need to give away a snack. You can't give away the whole meal. So I really think that when you're creating the content and when you're strategizing how it is that you're going to promote your story, you really need to think about, okay, how is everybody going to benefit from this? And I know that oftentimes a lot of us think it's like, oh my gosh, you know what? If I post this, I'm going to go viral. I'm going to get thousands of views. I'm going to get so many followers. And it's like, well, that's not helping anybody's end game. It's helping your end game, but we need to look at it from a team's perspective. And so you really need to consider it when you're producing the content of like, okay, what's the best strategy to properly execute this? So you need to, again, give away a snack, not the whole meal, and then drive everybody back to the so-called mothership.
And hopefully, Tony Leal, I hope that answers your question. It's a synergy, right? They have to work together, and they have to drive audience to each other. I always look at it as a circle.
Yep.
TV should push to your web, should push to your social, and then it should go back around, and it should connect all different ways. But I think it has to be symbiotic, and they have to work together in order for it to work. It's tricky, right? But you're absolutely right. You are going to have a very upset general manager if you're constantly giving everything away. But I think that there's a belief too that if you do give it away, you become people's favorite, so that when there is a crisis or there is the need for information, they're going to come find you, whether it's on broadcast or on digital. I mean, is that fair to say?
I would agree with that. I mean, listen, there's something to be said about brand awareness, to your point. I mean, brand awareness is key. And, hopefully you hope that, in a time of urgency or of crisis, they will come back to you when they need when they need the information on that story. So you really do, it's a weird line that you need to kind of balance, because, you want the brand awareness, you want that identity, you want people to know who you are. But at the end of the day, we're a business. We got to make money. So, it's a really tough balance to walk that we're all still trying to figure out how to do.
Edward Franco, go ahead. Yeah. What's up, Lawrence?
I think, and this is no offense to anyone out there, but I think the whole strategy needs to change. I think that the whole, only being on social to make money needs to change. I think we need to invest more in social. I think we need to build our brands. And I do think what Brandon was saying, if you put the content out there, people will come to you. I do think that's true, but I don't think you should not post something on social because you want people to turn on the TV. You can't assume that everyone's in front of a TV nowadays. Cable subscriptions are tanking, streams are going up. So, I think streaming is huge. I think if you can put social content and link to your website or a stream, that'll be great. But I don't think that we should not post something because you expect them to watch a newscast in the afternoon. I think that's very antiquated, and it's going to change the next few years, in my opinion.
And I would agree with that 100%. But again, it's really just a balance that everybody's trying to figure out. How do we navigate this so that everybody wins? Because again,
what is a win? What is considered a win? That's my question. What is a win?
It's
how much money are you really making off this? You know what I mean?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
I guess my question is what is considered a win? Is a rating a win? Is it a stream? Is it a tweet going viral win? I think because there's so many goals and objectives in different companies, no one knows what a win is. So I think that is how we would start. Figuring out what is
at the end of the day, it's hard for these companies to really just invest more in social or in any one particular division if the money's not coming in. So, it's really hard to, grow these teams, which we all say, hey, we need more resources. We need more bodies. We need more people to be able to do this, to accomplish this. But if the money's not coming in, a company's not going to invest in it. So, that's where that weird balance comes in, because you need to build that audience. You need to build that loyalty. But how do I do that if I'm not making the money? So you really need to just, again, it's something that all of us who are just constantly monitoring our KPIs and our metrics and whatnot, it's something that we're trying to figure out, because again, we want the audience, but we need the money also.
Yeah.
So hashtag Brandon battle. Who do you side with, right? Who do you side with? Who do you tweet us? Let us know what you're thinking. I'd love to hear what you think. Use the hashtag Brandon battle. I think it's great. I think it's great, but I think it's a great point. And listen, I'm guilty of it, right? So I, as a general manager, do not want you to post my content for free on social, but I will tell you that every morning, as soon as I wake up, somebody has already posted all the CBS This Morning content on Instagram, and I get caught up on what I need to know for the day from thanks to Brandon and his team. So so I am using it that way, and I think that I don't want to side with anybody, because again, Papa's got some revenue goals. But the reality of it is that I don't want to leave the platform. So how do we maximize that, and what is the balance that we find? But you did see the hashtag. The line in the sand has been drawn. Go ahead.
I have to add one more thing, because this is a very important conversation. We say, oh, we don't make money off social. That's not true. Twitter, you can add ads. You can have a pre-roll in front of your video. Facebook, the same. We have ads in some of our videos, or in-stream ads. So there is money to be made on social. So I just think, and there's digital sales. At CBS, there's a digital sales department who's looking in to every opportunity to make money online. So I just think it just comes down to strategy and rethinking where the money's coming from and where you're putting your resources in.
And I agree with you on that. No, and I agree with you on that. But I also think that we're comparing apples and bananas, because they're not necessarily the same. Because, from a network perspective, where your audience is significantly larger, absolutely, there's money to be made. But when you're market 39 in West Palm Beach, Florida, where our audience is, a fraction of what you guys have at CBS, the monetization element isn't necessarily there. So I agree with you 100%. There is money to be made on social, but you have to compare the audience sizes, and that definitely plays a huge factor in it.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I love these two guys. I love these two. I'm going to stop you right there because I do want to get to Whitney with a question from Edward Franco. And Edward, I have to tell you, I absolutely love this question. How do you manage the citizen journalism when you're getting either tweets or you're getting TikTok videos from a scene of breaking news? How do we confirm that information? Does it go straight to air? What's the process of using that?
No, so it does not go straight to air. We have an assignment desk who definitely vets that information. Back when I was in breaking news mode all day, I would sometimes be doing that. So it's having a conversation with that person. There's also tools to check, right? So you could reverse Google image search and see, has this photo been posted to the internet before? Is it real? Is it fake? We've seen a lot of hoaxes when it comes to breaking news. So it's important to verify that those photos or that those videos are real. We also have a rule where we ask them, did you take this photo or video? Because if they personally did not shoot that piece of content, we will not use it. So it's very important to verify before you air or post anything online. And, from newsroom to newsroom, it's going to vary on what your standards and your thresholds are. But NBC has a very high threshold for citizen journalism.
Yep, and not only that, we have to get permission from folks to use it on any platform at any level. So that not only means NBC LA, but it also means Telemundo 52. It means Telemundo 33 in Sacramento. It means all of my stations. It means the network, Today Show, Nightly, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be pretty interesting. So. This topic is endless, right? And I know that we keep getting questions, and we're going to start an important part of what I think we have to think about social and how we use social media, and that is how we use it personally. I have to be completely honest with you right now. I absolutely loved our little Brandon battle because these two this has been classic them since the day that I met them. And the way that no, listen, it's good. You're staying true to who you are, and I appreciate it. And poor Whitney's like, these guys are crazy.
I see valid points on both sides, but yeah, I mean, I'm coming from more of, I guess, the business perspective. So, yeah, that's all I'll say. I'm not going to take sides.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. But so the point I wanted to make was that I've known the Brandons for a really, really long time. And the way that we met them, a bunch of us, when we were working at WTVJ at NBC6, the way that we met them is that these high school kids started engaging us on social and asking questions and wanting to know why we do things and how we do things and sharing ideas and how can we do things better. And then all of a sudden we're like, well, why don't we start seeing what valid points they have and learning a little bit from them as well. And I know I've completely dumbed down the process of how you all got started, but I would like to talk now about how you all used your social medias to engage not only us, but how you've grown your personal brand through it. And I'd like to. Can you tell us a little bit about that process and what that was like?
Well, I look back at when I first started on Twitter in high school, which is when the platform really started, and it's just cringeworthy because it's really interesting to see how we started using the platform into what it is today. I mean, when it first started, it was literally oh, I'm watching American Idol tonight. Oh, I'm going out to dinner. Oh, I'm doing this, and a lot of us didn't really know how to use the platform. But that really was what I credit to be what started my career. Because to what Jose was saying, I just started following a lot of people in the industry. I knew since I was a kid that this was the business I wanted to be in. And so I just started following a bunch of people at the different stations in Miami when I was in high school. And I started engaging with them. And, that's how we really just started building a relationship, because ultimately I think this is a very who you know business, and relationships are key. And so the social media was, a key factor in that for me. It was just key in me meeting these people and getting to know them. In some cases, it was probably a little bit creepy because in high school, I didn't necessarily know the definition of boundaries, but, it definitely, it worked out. I mean, I think it was through the relationships that I built with Jose, with other people who work at TVJ, that really ultimately led to me getting a job in television. My first job was at WSVN, which again, I got that through meeting people on social media. So it really was a really just good platform for me to use to just grow my network and to meet people in the industry that I wanted to be in. And, with regards to evolving my brand, I mean, it's really just been a lot of adapting and pivoting and just, adjusting to the platform's needs. And, I ultimately, the key to success in this industry is authenticity. And I feel like I do a really good job at, just being my full self. Well, not my full self. I do have to, keep it PG-13 on social. But I mean, I think that really is a good strategy to really just ultimately being successful on social. And that's, being your true authentic self.
Brendan Launerts.
Yeah. So I love this
topic. Tell us about your process.
I love this topic because social media has come full circle for me. As Jose was saying, I did get my foot in the door through social media. And I'm going to quickly tell you how. In high school, Johnny Ferguson, shout out to everyone here watching, go Falcons. But I started the first Twitter account was FBN News, Ferguson Broadcasting Network. And I remember convincing our principal, being like, hey, we should create this Twitter. It's going to be huge. And look where we are now. We have the President of the United States using Twitter as a source of mass communication to the world. So I actually was able to allow people to follow our Twitter account because phones are not allowed in school. But I was like, we would put up a flyer on the TV that said follow FBN 12 on Twitter. So people who are on Twitter were allowed to take out their phones and follow us because it was following an educational account. So fast forward to college, which was about 2 years after that. It's about my second semester in college, and I had met Roxy and Pam Giganti through Principal for a Day, who were visiting at Ferguson. So I met them, connected with them on Twitter, because now I felt like I knew them because I met them once in person. So as I'm watching the news at 6 a.m. at, they're getting ready for school or whatever, I would tweet them, and I felt so connected. I'm like, wait, they're responding to me? I was like, they're a real person, like not only them, but the other reporters and anchors. And then I found out the producers are on there. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. They're posting behind the scenes photos. And remember, this is Twitter back in 2011. Twitter was a small community. So I'm here tweeting them. I'm seeing the engagement. I'm tweeting back and forth. And then once I figured out that I'm able to do an internship at NBC, thanks to Miami-Dade College, they allowed me to intern early in my last year of college, which is a huge benefit to my career. When I was there for the internship meet and greet, one of the producers, David Henderson, said, wait, I know you. Your face looks familiar. You're Brandon SFL. You're the guy that always tweets us. And I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing and awkward. He goes, no, but he's like, I like they're always watching. And he goes, let's give this guy a shot. So I got my foot in the door at NBC6, and I was there for 5 years. Within my second year there, I was part of a team that won an Emmy. It's just behind me. This is a humble brag because the Emmys invited me to speak here, so I had to mention it. I hate talking about myself. It's like, oh my God, look, my Emmy. But it's a full circle. Fast forward, my 5th year at NBC, when I was ready for my next opportunity, I was about to graduate. I was ready for my full-time staff job because I was working part-time at NBC while going to college. So when it was time for my full-time job, someone I met at a Twitter event called a Tweet Up, Steven Sejas, he DM'd me saying, hey, I'm going to be hiring a social media producer full-time. If you know anybody that's interested, let me know. And I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. Like, not saying I wanted to leave the company, but you need to, expand your career and see where you're going. So because I met him at a Twitter event, we were Twitter friends, he invited me to this event. He invited me to this job, interviewed, got the job. And then fast forward a year and a half later, someone else on Twitter that I knew that I met at a conference, but we were Twitter friends. He invited me to speak on a panel similar to what we're doing today. Someone on that panel, his name was Kevin Prince. He worked at CBS, and he was the CBS social media producer. And after the panel, we grabbed coffee, and he's like, hey, would you ever move to New York? And I'm like, yeah, one day. Like, I love New York. It's my dream. And he goes, okay, well, I'm hiring and think you'd be a great fit. And I was like, what? Like, this is like my dream job, like just falling on my lap. Like, is this true? So it just shows that like the power of networking, whether it's in person or it's online, it's so important. Do not burn any bridges. Just be a great person, and in the universe will come to you. So that's what I got, and that's probably my closing thoughts because we don't have that much time.
it's a shame that you're not passionate about it at all.
Not at
So
all.
maybe you can sit and reflect on that a little bit and maybe find some passion. Whitney, let me ask you this question: how do you juggle you as a journalist and you on social? Because they're two different people, right? To a certain extent, but
Right.
our company has pretty strict rules on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I kind of prescribe to the philosophy Brandon Lopez mentioned earlier. There's just some things you don't post on social media. And, I like to keep some things private. So, I'll post outings or day-to-day things that have to do with work. But if it's more personal, if it's, like a family member's birthday or something like that, I'm definitely private in that regard. But ultimately, I know my social accounts are public. There is no privacy. So I understand that anything I do post to social media, it's subject to scrutiny. And ultimately, Jose, like you mentioned, we are representing the company. So I have to keep that in the back of my mind at all times.
Yeah, I think sometimes I'm overly cautious and I overthink a little bit what I'm posting and what I'm not posting.
Right.
Sometimes I don't want people to think I'm living some fabulous life that I'm not on because social
And
things on
especially
social
during
tend
the
to
pandemic, some things can just feel a little bit insensitive. So
correct.
it's a balance.
Correct. Okay, so real quick, I want to go around. First of all, thank you each of you for your participation. But I know I'm going to get tased here in a few minutes if I don't start wrapping up. But I want to get a few closing thoughts from you all. Whitney, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So I guess my biggest thing with social media, my biggest piece of advice that I would give people is just don't be afraid to experiment. And I would say launch fast and adjust. You're never going to feel like you have the perfect TikTok crafted or, the perfect Clubhouse conversation put together. But I think it's so important for us to be in those spaces. And, we're journalists, we're learning as we go. So I think launch fast, just put something out there, see how the audience responds and adjust and correct, from there.
Okay, thank you for that, and
Thank you.
that's great advice. Leonard, did you have anything else to say? Because I mean, again,
I
I
always
think
got lots to say, Jose. You can't shut me up. No, I'm kidding.
pretty much told your story, boo.
I would say the most important thing is trying to look for an internship. If you're really starting out your career and let's say you're in college or you're about to go to college, it doesn't mean that you have to wait to an internship to get your foot in the door. Like we're living in 2021. These phones are, you can go live, you can edit a video, you can shoot video. This phone is so important. So like use this to your advantage. If this is all you have is a mobile smartphone, but network, intern. If you do get your foot in the door into an internship, don't just stick to the department you're assigned to. Go and volunteer in different departments. When I was interning at NBC, I said, I don't want to learn just editing. I want to learn how to write. I want to learn how to shoot. I want to learn with the assignment desk. I want to go out with a reporter and see what they do. I want to learn it all because one day when I'm the boss, executive producer, CEO, whatever it is, I've been in all those shoes where I know what it's like to do it. So learn as much as you can. No question is a dumb question. Ask a lot of questions. But networking is really important. So create content. Don't be scared to try something new, try new platforms. If it fails, it fails. Do another one and learn from it. So that's what I got. And you guys have any questions about your career, you can slide in my DMs, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Well, not Facebook. Facebook's like family, but Twitter and Instagram, just DM me and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I am always nice to Leonard because I'm pretty sure someday I'm going to end up working for him. So, so I am always nice to Leonard. Brandon Lopez, what do you got?
I don't think I'm going to end up working for Launerts after the hashtag Brandon battle. But anyway.
Brandon battle.
If I had to offer one piece of advice, it's be careful like what you're posting online. I mean, digital citizenship is so important. And I feel like it's something that's not really discussed enough, especially now as we continue to have all these platforms evolving and, people continuing to, I mean, I'll be totally honest with you. COVID has gotten me obsessed with TikTok. I will easily spend an hour and a half just scrolling through, but I can't believe I just admitted that, but it is what it is. Hashtag authenticity, right? But I mean, like some of the things that I see people posting on there, I'm like, don't you care about your future? So it really is important that you think about what you hit send, whether it's public or if it's private. A lot of us are guilty of screen recording and screenshots and sending it to friends. And, oh my God, look at what so-and-so posted and look at what so-and-so tweeted. Be very careful. Even if you post it and delete it within a minute, Guess what? All of us are social media managers here, and we're quick. So, I'm telling you, anything can happen really fast. Be very careful with what you post, especially now. This past year has been incredibly difficult. We came off a really contentious election. We started a very much needed, important discussion on racism. It's important that we have those conversations, but it's important that you remain unbiased when you're having these conversations, because at the end of the day, we're journalists. And so if you side with a specific topic and then you're sent to report on that, that's not going to look very good. So be very careful about what before you hit send, and be very careful about what you're posting.
All right. Thanks, everybody. So I really do want to thank the Suncoast Emmy chapter for inviting all of us here today, but particularly me. It really has been a pleasure. I got to connect with so many people in preparation for this. Carla McDonald, thank you so much again for this. And she had said when we were talking about it, that the subject is so vast that probably in the future, there's going to have to be another webinar around social. And Carla, just a little advice. And to the board, I would love to see a reporter who is not just a web journalist on one of these panels, as well as some of the public information officers that now use social media to really connect with people. And I think that would really be a benefit to have people and see their perspective and how they work together on the field, and how all of that comes together. I think the last year or so, we have seen social media mean so much to us, right? I think from a very contentious election to how we all live our lives at home, a lot of people have used social media to connect, but sometimes it's also made us feel very isolated. So it's really, really interesting what social media does. Social media is a tool that inspires and motivates, but it can also be a tool and a weapon, as we've seen from some people. So be very responsible and be very careful of how you use it and what you choose to say and how you choose to represent yourself on these platforms, because it says everything. Whenever you meet anybody, whether you've met somebody on Tinder, you've met somebody on the street, you met somebody at work, what's the first thing you do? You go in and you check all of their social media feeds, because that's how we learn about people from right now. So whatever you posted there is what people's first impression a lot of times is going to be about you. So make sure that you're getting out that right first impression and really be respectful. And I think I love, Brandon, what you said, Brandon Lopez, what you said about being a good citizen on there. There's no need for any of the ugliness. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. This, again, has just been such a huge privilege to host this today. We have another big event coming up in a couple of weeks, right? Another webinar right there. It's Podcasting 101. So that's going to be Saturday, April 10th, again at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So make sure you join us for that. You can follow the Suncoast Emmy chapter on all of their platforms in order to stay connected to the latest events. I think these ongoing educational events are absolutely huge. And right there, you have all of our information. So if you have any questions or you want to, if you want a piece of the Brandon battle, slip into their DMs. Let them know exactly what it is that they're thinking, and let's make this a thing.
Should we hop on Instagram and continue the conversation? No,
the conversation continues.
Instagram
the conversation is nonstop, and I've heard that before. Exactly, after party.
I don't want to end this on a bad note. Lonarts and I are actually really good friends. Great friends, and I appreciate both of you very much, and I appreciate the passion that which you've shown and the leadership that you've shown to students and to people that are up and coming. Whitney, I can't wait to get to know you better. I'm very excited about it. We're going to be good friends, because I'm going to steal some audience engagement ideas for my stations, and that's going to wrap it up for us. Hope you all have a great Saturday. Hey, you know what? Why doesn't everybody who's watching post 3 things that they're thankful for today, and try to make the world a better place? So 3 things that you're thankful for, you post that today and let everybody know. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.